Thank you for joining me. We're going to start in standing. So just coming to a place on your mat and take a moment to kind of plant your feet down on the floor. And we're going to start just by noticing how you feel. So perhaps you want to soften the gaze or close the eyes. Maybe sway a little bit back and forth on the feet. Just taking a moment to kind of greet your body and land here on the mat. And noticing at the beginning of practice how you feel. And then we're going to start to move. If the eyes are closed, you can open them. Grabbing your yoga strap, and if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a tie from your bathrobe, or if you have a thera band, that works very well for this as well. So anything that you have lying around the house is fine. So we're going to grab the band in kind of a Y shape here, and we're just going to start gently taking the arms up overhead and back behind us, letting the band touch the booty, and then come back up and around. Doing that a few times. You may need to adjust the hands on the strap. Trying to keep the arms relatively straight, trying to keep the ribs relatively soft, so that this is about arms moving, not so much about spine moving. Let's do 2 more. Just warming up the shoulders. Last one. Nice. From here, maybe walk the hands a little closer to one another. Pull the band or the strap gently apart. Take the hands again up overhead. Ribs stay soft. Let's really press down into that left foot, and we're going to reach over towards the right side. Feeling spaciousness along the left side of the body. Let's come back up to center. And then we're going to rotate towards the right. Think of moving the nipples towards the right and back to center. Let's try that a couple more times. Over to the side and up and rotate. Last time, over to the side and up. Rotate, move those ribs. Nice. Let's switch sides. If you want to take a little break, bringing the arms down for a moment, feel free. And when you're ready, we'll switch sides. Really plant down through the right foot. Let the ribs reach up and over towards the left. Come back to center and rotate to the left. Really think of those ribs moving side and twisting back. And again, moving to the side and twisting back. Nice. From here, lower the hands. We'll leave the strap for now. And take your hands, cross them over your chest. And then from here, we're going to tuck the chin down, hug it in towards the chest, round through the upper spine. And then from here, let's grab that same movement we just did where we think of rotating the ribs. So we're going to rotate the ribs and the nipples towards the right. And then we're going to kind of continue from there through a circle. So the ribs, or the part of the spine that's attached to the ribs, is going to be circling around. Let's do 3 circles in each direction. Working to keep the pelvis as stable as you can. And really think of finding that rotation and then side bend. So we're kind of smoothing out some of those moves we just did when we had the strap. Let's switch directions. One more time. Around, rotate, side bend back. and rotate and down. Good. Coming up to standing. Release the hands. Bend the knees slightly. And we'll jump down to the pelvis here. So we want to kind of isolate the movements of the pelvis and just move through some tucks and some nods of the pelvis. So if these are new to you, you might find it helpful to think of your sitting bone. Your sitting bone is a bit of a driver. So the sitting bones pull down towards the floor, kind of curling under. And then the sitting bones kind of unfurl and move back behind you. So do that a few times, starting to connect kind of the low body and isolating, trying to keep that upper body as still as you can. Last one. Good. From here, come to a middle ground with those sitting bones. Come up to standing. Standing at the back of your mat, we'll start to roll down. So we're using this to just kind of check in with the spine and see if we can roll each section, each vertebrae, if you will, or each section of the spine segmentally down, bending the knees as much as you need to. And we're going to allow the hands to fall forward, bend the knees, roll, 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 roll. When the fingertips graze the floor, take a moment, pause, let the head hang, and then we'll reverse that. So coming up segment by segment. So see if you can invite a little bit of control and mindfulness to this. So we're not just ragdolling down and letting the weight of the body kind of plunk us down. Instead, can you make it a mindful and intentional connection to the spine? So let's try that one more time. Tuck the chin, start at the very top of the spine. You might find some sections of the spine that are a little maybe a little dark to you, like maybe not very accessible to your mind's eye. That's okay. Noticing that. Or maybe there's sections of the spine that don't move as freely as others. Again, just starting to notice, starting to connect into how your spine is moving. Again, bending the knees as much as you need to. Bring the hands to the floor. And then we're going to walk the hands out till we come to a downward dog shape. And this can be easy. Nothing fancy here. Maybe you want to pedal out the feet. Maybe that feels good. Maybe you want to be still. Starting just to kind of wake up the back of the body. And then from here, let's float to our knees. So seeing if you can bring as much control as you can to that transition. And then when we get to hands and knees, let's jump down to the pelvis again and come into that same action of tucking and nodding. So here, we're working to try and just move through the pelvis. One more. Again, sitting bones being the driver here. Coming to your middle ground here, can we find that same movement in the ribs? So can we think of moving our mid-back up towards the ceiling and then letting it drop down towards the floor. Round up and down. Trying to compartmentalize or section off, if you will, different parts of the spine. And then let's pause in that cat shape that rounding of the mid-back. And can you breathe here? So can we take some big breaths in, filling the rib cage and the whole girth of the core with breath? And then can you keep that rounded shape as you exhale? So resist the temptation here to let the ribs drop down. You might feel a real kind of wakening up of the core here. 2 more breaths. Let the ribs move. Think of pressing the ribs up towards the ceiling from the inside. Last time. Whew, that warms me up. So from here, we're going to jump down to the hips. So as you're working here, see if you can keep that pelvis very stable. And we'll start with that left hip. So we're going to float the leg up and see if you can circle that leg bone in the socket, trying hard to keep the spine and the pelvis stable, and just move that leg bone around in the joint. Let's reverse. The next time that your leg is out to the side, see if you can straighten the leg, extend the foot, and place the foot flat on the floor. Just turn around so you can see a little bit here. So pause for a moment, let your body get used to the shape, feeling some length through the inner thigh. Then we'll just gently take the booty back down towards the heels and come back. Couple of times here, opening up the back of the hips. Nice. From here, come to your middle ground. Really press through the right hand. Float the left hand behind the head. So the elbow and the leg are both out to the side. And then can we find that rotation through the ribs again? Think of rotating ribs and nipples out towards that outstretched leg and down to center. Rotate and down. So bringing a little mobility and strength here. 2 and 1. Place the hand back on the floor, and we're going to start to walk that outstretched foot in towards us so that the knee and the toe are pointing away from the body. And then we're going to walk the hands up so we come into a kneeling shape. So the leg doesn't need to be all the way out to the side, but bring it out as much as kind of feels good. And we're looking to imagine that this leg bone is rolling back behind you. So we are externally rotating this leg bone in the socket, thinking of rolling that in. And then when you've got your shape, pull the heel in towards the groin to really fire up the stability of this outstretched leg. From here, think of hugging in this outer hip, and then think of tucking the pelvis under through your kneeling leg. So we've got effort happening on both legs, kind of coming at it from different directions. And then from here, we'll float the right arm up and side bend. And then as you come back, think of pulling that shoulder blade in towards the spine as the elbow hugs into the waist. Up, side bend, pull, side bend. So you could absolutely add a small weight to this series. So if you wanted to add like 2 or 3 pounds to your hand here, or a can of soup or a bottle of wine, you could add a little bit of load here. Last one. Good. from here, let's take the hand up and we're going to rotate the nipples towards that outstretched leg and forward fold. Pause. And can you send your breath into your back ribs here on that right side? So kind of like that cat position again. Breathe, inhale, think of pushing the air out from the inside. Last one. Nice, and we'll come to center. From here, we can heel toe that leg forward, so we're coming into a half kneeling shape. So the narrower you bring your foot in, or the closer to center you bring your foot in, the more tippy it is. So if you're feeling a little tippy there, feel free to walk that foot out a little bit. Doesn't need to be directly in front of you. And again, can you invite some stability in this front leg? So feel that heel digging into the floor and pulling back towards you. So that's going to fire up the hamstrings on this side and help to just stabilize the pelvis. Good, and then again, we're going to work through this right arm. And then here, can we think of reaching the arm back? So shoulder blade is going to move back, and then we're going to pull and rotate the nipples towards the right, back to center. Arm reaches up, reaches back, twist. So again, if you want to add a small weight here, feel free. Twist, move, open. So challenge yourself to keep your pelvis stable. So it's going to want to twist and go along for the ride. See if you can just isolate this move into the upper body. Last one. Good. And down. Beautiful. So from here, you can plant the hands and bring the knees back, and then push yourself back to a downward dog shape. If at any point downward dog is not feeling like what you want to do, feel free to come to your knees, sink the hips back, and take a moment in child's pose. So either shape here, pause for a moment. And then if you're ready to join in, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So here we'll circle through the right leg. Switch around so you can see. So find your stable base in your arms and your hips, and then float that right leg up, circling. Just noticing what range of motion is available in the hip today. Less reverse. And then the next time that your leg is kind of out in that fire hydrant shape, can you straighten the leg and plant the foot down on the floor? Pause for a moment. And then we'll take those hips back towards the heels. Don't need to go all the way. Let your body be the guide. This could be pretty high sensation for some. So just kind of notice what's happening in the hips, in the pelvic floor, inner thigh. Last one. Good. From here, press down through the left hand. Float that right hand up. Elbow out to the side. Rotate towards that outstretched leg. Exhale here. Inhale. Exhale as the ribs move. Pelvis stays as stable as possible. 3 more. Last time. Beautiful. Returning both hands to the floor. heel toe that foot in. So we're coming to the knee and the toe facing away from the body. Walk the hands up, and then we're going to come into this kind of side kneeling shape. So again, we're thinking of rolling that thigh bone behind you and secure that by pulling the heel in towards the groin. And then from here, taking an in-breath with that left hand, arm goes up, and we'll side bend. Come back to center. Think of pulling, squeezing that elbow into the waist. Up, side. And again. Three more. Last time. Good. Lowering the hand, walking the foot forward, kind of heel toe in, coming into a half kneeling shape. If at any time the knee doesn't feel good, you can grab a towel, a pillow, maybe a foam yoga block if you've got it, stick it under the knee. Find that stability through that front foot, pulling back. And then here we're going to reach kind of on a diagonal with that left hand, pull back with the arm, and then let that be the guide to rotate the ribs back behind us. Reach, rotate. Reach, pull back, twist. Resist the urge to take the pelvis along for the ride. Two more. Last one. Good. From here, lower the hand, hinge, bring the hands to the floor. You can bring that leg back. And again, push back either to down dog or to child's pose, whatever your body feels like it needs right now. Two more breaths. And again, we're now going to come to our knees. So either come up for child's pose, or if you're coming through down dog, see if you can control that transition. You got it. So coming back again to that left leg from hands and knees. And we're just going to come and do a little bit of glute work here as we press the heel up towards the sky. So we want to work here not so much on a big movement, but more on keeping the spine and the pelvis still. So you might notice here my leg's not going super far, but I'm really isolating this work in the glute, and I'm resisting the urge to let other parts of the body up the chain kind of do the work. So can you find stability in the spine and pelvis and isolate through the glute? Three more. Good. From here, lift the leg and straighten. Drop the toe to the floor. Pivot the bottom knee so the heel goes behind you, and then we're going to rotate open to the side. So if you're finding in this shape that the floor feels very far away, and there's a lot of kind of shortness in the side waist, then feel free to grab a stack of books or a yoga block just to bring you a little bit more height. So again, we're finding that kind of half kneeling shape that we were just working on. So there's a bit of moving the pelvis back and stabilizing through this kneeling hip. And then let's take the arm up to the ceiling, that left arm up to the ceiling, make a fist, and we'll just start to do some slow, controlled circles. So think of really working both shoulders here. They're spreading apart, active. Control the circle. So we don't want to use momentum. Let's reverse. Let's see if you can use all the little muscles around the shoulder joint to do this move. Nice. Good. From here, slight bend down, nipples turn towards the ceiling, and then rotate chest up to the ceiling, reach back. Forward, slightly down. Opening the front of the chest, getting those ribs to move. Last two. Back. Rotate. Last one. Good. Coming to center, hand can come onto the hip. Let's jump down to the leg here. So can we use the strength of the outer hip, balance it with the strength of the inner hip to lift that left leg off the floor and lower down with control. Lift and lower. Again, not so much about height, but controlled movement. Three, two, and one. Pause with the leg lifted, and maybe just explore kind of rotating that leg bone in the socket a little. So leg moving forward, leg moving back. Just notice how that changes the work in the hip. Lots of shaking going on. Whew. Last time. Let's bring that leg down. And now we're going to rotate the torso back to the floor. Place both hands on the floor. Remove the block if you're using it. And then we've got this left leg kind of staggered back. Can you just drop the knee down to the floor? So it's like this kind of crawling position, if you will. So we've got our left leg back, and perhaps take your right arm slightly forward. So we're in that part of a crawling pattern, I suppose. And then think of rounding through that upper spine and back down. So coming back to the move that we did earlier, we've just changed the limbs a bit. How does that change the sensation through the ribs, through the mid-back? Let's pause here in that rounded position. And can we breathe into the mid-back? So can you send your inhale into your ribs, pushing them up towards the ceiling? And then keep that effort as you exhale. So resist the urge to let the spine and the ribs move down towards the floor as you breathe out. Two more breaths. Good. From here, we'll come back to our middle ground, bring the knees together, and either come to a child's pose or down dog. Just reset the body before we switch sides. One more breath here. And we'll do the same sequence on the other side. Just switch around so you can see me here. So again, finding your hands and knees, press down through that left hip, hug up through the right, and then push that bent leg up towards the ceiling and down. Press. Again, here we're working to try and keep that pelvis and spine really stable. Four, three, two, and one. Pause with the leg lifted. Straighten the leg, bring the toes to the floor. Pivot through that bent knee, and then we'll open up to the side. So again, excuse me, if you're feeling kind of shortened through the side body, feel free to grab a yoga block and set up from there. I'm going to get my hair out of my face so I'm not so hot. So again, finding some stability through this kneeling leg. And we want to feel strong on the shoulder here. So the shoulder is stacked over the wrist, and then we're going to press, or even kind of think of punching up with that top arm. So we're really strong, like from fist to fist is like this long line of strength and stability here. And then take an in-breath, take an out-breath, stabilize through the trunk as you start to move and explore circles through the arms, that top arm. Controlling the movement. 2 and 1. Let's reverse. 2 and 1. Nice. From here, we'll rotate the ribs slightly. Hand can come down. And then rotate up towards the ceiling. Reach that arm behind you. So we're working to keep the pelvis stable, but move the ribs. Twist open. Getting mobility into the ribs where the lungs are housed. Two more. From here, taking that top hand to the hip, really think of like pulling that leg bone in towards you. So can you think of sucking it deep within the hip, and then we're going to lift and lower. So we've got outer hip working hard, but we also have inner hip working to kind of balance. So they go together, inner thigh, outer hip. Lots of shaking going on. Four, three, two, and one. Pause here and see what it feels like to play with different rotations of that raised leg. Doesn't have to be raised very far to kind of feel all these sensations around the hip. Toes pointing down, toes pointing up. Keep hugging that leg bone deep into the pelvis, deep into the hip. Last two. Last one. Whew. Good. Let's bring that leg down. We're going to rotate the hands back down towards the mat. Move the block off. So we've got that right leg outstretched. Can we just drop that knee down? So we've got a bit of a stagger. And then we're going to take the left hand and move it slightly forward of the right. And then from here, a little bit of movement through the spine. And then pausing with that accentuated rounding of the spine. So that cat shape. And can you breathe into that area of the ribs? And just notice how changing the hands and the feet make a difference in sensation as you come into this shape. So imagine that I'm inside your rib cage, and as you breathe in, I'm pushing your ribs out from the inside, getting all those muscles around the ribs to start working. Last one. Good. From here, coming back to center, bring both hands and knees to center. And then final down dog here of this little class, if you'd like, or you can come right down to child's pose. If you're in down dog, slowly control your knees down towards the floor. And then we'll make our way onto our backs. So if you have a blanket or a roll towel and you want to place that behind your head, feel free to do that here. Pause for a moment, feeling the spine and the pelvis land on the mat. Let's float that right leg up in the air. And then rotate the leg so the ankle can cross onto the outside of the right thigh. And then allow that right knee to open up away from the center line. We're going to keep the legs here as they are. Arms can come out into a T shape. Broaden the collarbone and maybe think of kind of hugging that bottom tip of the right shoulder blade just in a little bit, kind of tucking it into the ribs. And then as you take an in-breath here, the out-breath is going to allow the whole lower body to start to rotate over towards the left. If the floor is feeling very far away, grab your block or your stack of books or your towel. You can place it underneath your right foot. Sometimes that floor, it's there, but feels a little far. And then here, take a few moments just to settle into your twist. Sending your breath through the whole spiral line of the spine. One more breath. On your next exhale, pull the legs back up to center with control. We'll uncross the legs. Pause. Notice the difference in sensation between the two sides. And then we'll switch sides. So left leg crosses over so that the left ankle is on the outside of the right thigh. Invite that left knee to travel away from the center line. Pause. Clip that left shoulder slightly under the body. That left collarbone can stay broad. Take an in-breath. On your out-breath, allow the legs as they are to rotate over towards the right side of the mat. breathe into that whole line from armpit down to hips. 2 more breaths here. And on your next exhale, bringing the legs back to center. You can uncross the legs. And here, I invite you to walk the feet wide and let the knees fall in towards one another. So just spending a moment or two in this shape, letting the spine kind of come back to its middle ground, pelvis come back to its middle ground. And then grabbing whatever you need to settle into your final posture of the class. So if you need socks or a hoodie, something to keep warm during stillness, or if you just want to come right into it, feel free. If you want to extend the legs, you can. If you want to keep the legs bent, you can. And just settling in to whatever your final posture is, where you can surrender down towards the floor. And know that you can stay here as long as you'd like, as long as time permits. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope to see you soon. Be well.